On today's show, Mike Pompeo revoked the visas for members of the International Criminal Court, essentially saying the U.S. will not be investigated for war crimes. Also, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib both tweeted out support for the quote-unquote uprising in Syria, essentially saying they support the rebels in their quest against oppression. And we're going to take a deeper look at presidential candidate Andrew Yang. That and more is coming up. But first, I do want to thank Graham Elwood. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, he is a great progressive voice. He actually gave me an opportunity to come on his show and talk about my journey into independent progressive media. That link is down below for you. And once again, thank you so much to Graham Elwood, and subscribe to his channel. He's great. He's really great. Okay, let's go ahead and start off with all of the crazy stuff that happened over the weekend. Just kind of a roundup of some of the big news. Donald Trump had his craziest day ever on Twitter. He tweeted out 29 tweets and retweets on Sunday alone. He's first was accusing Saturday Night Live of colluding with Democrats and or Russia because they attack him so consistently. He attacked the late John McCain. He was saying that he was the one who put the Steele dossier out there and that it was going to be a stain on his legacy. Of course, Meghan McCain hit back saying, "No one will ever love you as much as they've loved my father." He also went and defended Jeanine Pirro on Fox News. She was suspended for some pretty abhorrent, pretty Islamophobic comments that she had made. Actually, if you haven't heard the comment, here it is.
Think about this. She's not getting this anti-Israel sentiment doctrine from the Democrat Party. So if it's not rooted in the party, where is she getting it from? Think about it. Omar wears a hijab, which according to the Quran 33:59 tells women to cover so they won't get molested. Is her adherence to this Islamic doctrine indicative of her adherence to Sharia law, which in itself is antithetical to the United States Constitution?
You guys all know I do not like people digging up stuff from the past and trying to, do the whole gotcha now thing for it. But look, if you do something today, then you need to suffer the repercussions of the actions that you have done today. I think Judge Jeanine Pirro absolutely should be fired from Fox for that comment. It is Islamophobic, and it seems like she has no grasp on history or any other world religions, considering who else wears headscarves? I don't know. Maybe all the Catholic nuns? So he went on and defended the fact that she's been suspended, saying that she needs to be brought back. And he also, interestingly, retweeted Tulsi Gabbard, sort of, kind of. What he did was he retweeted William Craddock, and in that tweet was a retweet of Tulsi Gabbard. So William Craddock said, "Russiagate was designed in part to help the UK counter Russian influence by baiting the United States into taking a hard line against them. Leaves us all with a more dangerous world as a consequence. Just another episode of the Great Game." And he retweeted Tulsi, who said, "Short-sighted politicians and media pundits who've spent the last 2 years accusing Trump as a Putin puppet have brought us the expensive new Cold War and arms race. How? Because Trump now does everything he can to prove he's not Putin's puppet, even if it brings us closer to nuclear war." Trump retweeted this. He retweeted this. So he's agreeing with Tulsi on him bringing us closer to nuclear war because of Russiagate. I mean, this is, look, I agree with her. I just think it's crazy he actually retweeted it. Like he's saying, yeah, I agree too. I'm bringing us closer to nuclear war because of what you guys are saying. I mean, what the hell? Okay, so he's crazy. We all knew that. Moving on, some other big news that happened. The New Zealand mosque terrorist, he has fired his lawyer. He's going to represent himself. And people are afraid that this means he's going to have the opportunity to spew all of his rhetoric, which is exactly what this means. He's going to represent himself, and he's going to say, he's going to use it as an opportunity to propagandize his beliefs and his views. And I don't know what the laws are in New Zealand regarding court cases. Will this be televised? How heavily will this be reported on? My guess is, look, everybody in America and, well, the world, everybody in the world is going to want to know about this court case. It's kind of a sick and twisted thing, and this is a delicate balance that I'm not sure how we're going to, I don't know how we're going to balance it, but essentially everyone's going to be really curious and wanting to know what this guy has to say and wanting to know how the court case is going. And yet doing that gives this guy a platform. So what is media going to do? I don't know, because I know we all want to know what this guy says. I know we all want to know how this court case is going to go. I know we all are going to want to know this stuff. But is that really going to be the best thing to do? Should we shun the court case and say, let's close it down and not report on it and just report on what the punishment is that this guy ends up getting, which I don't think they have the death penalty in New Zealand. But that is going to be a really delicate balance because, you know, the sick and twisted curiosity we all have, I don't know what's going to happen there. Okay, moving on here. Boeing. So finally, their 737 MAX plane has been grounded by the United States. Remember, we were last to ground the plane because, you know, Boeing is our Defense Department darling. They have the second largest contract in the Defense Department. I think last year alone, they got, $13 billion in defense contracts. So finally, the U.S. came forward and said, okay, we're going to have to ground these planes. New reports have come out, this was from Bloomberg, that apparently, now this is the kind of power that Boeing has, right? I mean, here it is, the U.S. wouldn't even ground the 737 MAX when even the EU and all these other nations had grounded the plane. We were the last to the party on that. And it turns out that a report comes out saying that FAA employees have warned as early as 7 years ago that Boeing had too much sway over safety approvals of their new aircraft, prompting an investigation by the Department of Transportation auditors who confirmed the agency hadn't done enough to hold Boeing accountable. So apparently, not only have they been able to sway our government when it comes to grounding their plane, but they've also had too much sway on when their aircrafts were being inspected on and the outcome of those inspections. This is the kind of power they have. The 2012 investigation also found that discord over Boeing's treatment had created a negative work environment among Federal Aviation Administration employees who approved new and modified aircraft designs, with many of them saying they'd faced retaliation for speaking up. Their concerns predated the 737 MAX development. So this has been going on for a really long time. This is the power of the war machine. When you've got $13 billion in defense contracts and you're supplying the military with their planes and with weapons, this is the kind of power you have, where you can basically make a phone call to the government and say, don't ground our planes, even though it's these other nations are grounding them. Don't you dare do it. Don't you do it. And also you get to have sway over the FAA and their inspection process and their approval of your aircrafts. This is the kind of power. That's the power of money. That's what we're fighting against. Speaking of fighting against the power of money, in France, the riots have continued. The yellow vests are still going strong. 18 weeks of these riots have been going on. They were protests. They've turned into full-on riots. There have been a ton of destruction happened over this weekend. Lots and lots of storefronts were vandalized. Fires happened. There is just a lot of destruction going on in Paris. This is 18 weeks of protesters. Now, people are saying, well, who are these protesters? Well, they're coming from the right and the left. The French government is saying, oh, these are just extremists. They're on the right and the left. And you're like, so they're on both sides. So basically everybody is protesting against you. That's what you're really saying here. And the reason they're protesting is they're fed up with the money system that has been going on in France. They're fed up with the oligarchy. They're fed up with the people in power essentially bending and doing everything they can to keep their buddies propped up. It's what we're fighting against here in the progressive movement. It's exactly the same thing. And this here shows what happened over this weekend and what's been going on for 18 weeks, shows what happens when you get that corporatist centrist in office. This is the Hillary Clinton, the Beto O'Rourke, the Biden, the Amy Klobuchar. This is what you get. And when people say, well, anything is better than Trump, really? Because look at what's going on in France. They fought against Marine Le Pen, who was considered the Trump of France. They ended up voting in. They rejected that narrative. They rejected her rhetoric. They went instead with Emmanuel Macron, a centrist corporatist. And really, are they better off? Are they? Because look at the riots and look at the destruction in Paris. And now the reports are on the street that the people who were once against the violence are now starting to say, actually, I'm kind of for it. In fact, here's this report from France24.com. This person says, it's been 18 weeks and we haven't been listened to. A Yellow Vest participant named John from the eastern city of Nancy was cited as telling French Daily Le Monde on the sidelines of the demonstration. He says, we are being too pacifist ourselves. 60-year-old Isabel from Essonne agreed, if I were younger, I'd join the clashes too. The biggest violence is that of the government, the one that is triggering the anger. This person says, up until now, I've intervened whenever I've seen damage being carried out during the demonstrations, but now I just think to myself, too bad. 39-year-old Jennifer from western city of Rouen said, when I saw them attack Le Fouquet, the symbol of oligarchy, I can't say I was satisfied, but I can't say I was sorry either. So this brasserie Fouquet, it's a place where Sarkozy, when he was named president, he held his first event there, one of his first events there, and he invited all the wealthy people from France to this. And when the French saw that, and they saw that they had elected this oligarch into office, who was elbowing or getting cozy with all of the wealthy people in France, it was heavily criticized and seen as a sign of just the wealthy keeping the wealthy in power. And it was a sign of oligarchy, and it was totally and completely destroyed over the weekend. That is what's going on in France. That is what happens when you elect a corporatist centrist. This is the damage that happens. Do not tell us that anybody is better than Trump, because it's hard to believe when you look at France. Okay. We are going to move on with the show here. Coming up, Mike Pompeo has revoked the visas for anyone who wants to investigate the United States of war crimes. That's next.